I want to talk to you today about professional photography and how people end up in professional photography. Now, you might not have an interest in this because you say, I'm not going to be a professional photographer. But let me tell you my story and how this worked out for me. Maybe you'll find yourself in the same situation. Anyways, let me give you some background. I think cameras were always around wherever I went when I was growing up. My dad had a Polaroid camera. He had 35 millimeter cameras. He had a medium format camera. He had a large format camera. He was into photography, but not really because he wasn't a pro. He didn't shoot lots and lots of photos, but I do know that he had a lot of cameras. And he didn't talk too much about it, but one day going through his old things after he had passed away, and I looked at his yearbook, and there was the photography club. Guess who was the president of the photography club? Yeah, it was my dad. So he obviously had an interest. My uncle, not a pro photographer, okay, but you can pretty much say he was a pro photographer. He took everybody's photo. If you were Chinese and you lived in my area, you knew my uncle because he took everybody's photo, right? Developed it all himself, black and white, did the whole thing, all right? He wasn't technically a pro. He didn't charge people. He just enjoyed doing it, okay? So what about me? I had an interest in photography, but I never had a camera, right? Growing up, my friends had cameras. I think they were probably high school through college age. They had cameras. I didn't have any. Always wanted one. So I ended up going on a trip to Hawaii, and my dad bought me a camera, a 35 millimeter 35 millimeter Canon camera. So an AE1 program for anyone who knows anything about old 35 millimeter cameras. That was my first good camera. And that's where I learned how to use my camera, was basically on that one. When I got married, my wife had a Nikon FE 35 millimeter camera, and I kind of inherited that from her. In other words, I stole it from her and never gave it back. I still have it. I wasn't a pro. I just used it. I enjoyed it. Later on in life, I went into law enforcement and I worked in several different police agencies. And my final position was at the district attorney's office. I became a court expert in forensic photography, forensic audio, and forensic videography. So I actually have 3 court qualifications from the state of California. But I could say I was a professional photographer at that time because I did make an income, and part of my job was taking photographs. A good chunk of my job actually was taking photographs. So yes, was I a professional photographer? Yes. Did I do it privately for myself? No. I worked for a police agency, law enforcement agency, district attorney's office, and they paid me to do it. So yeah, I was a professional, so to speak, then. But during that time, one of the people who worked at the DA's office was getting married, and she had asked me if I would shoot her wedding. And I told her, I says, I shoot crime scenes. I don't know anything about wedding photography. And she goes, oh, it can't be that hard. How could it be that hard? You are our professional here at the DA's office. You're our court expert. How could it be for you? So I said, okay. A lot of the people there encouraged me to do it. So I said, all right, I'll do it. So I had quite a few months, and I took a number of books out and learned the important things you needed to have for wedding photography. So I shot that wedding. About a week later, I was assigned to do a burglary case for the DA's office, and the guy's house who got burglarized was a professional photographer. And so I went to shoot his house, and we exchanged names and numbers. And literally that week afterwards, he called me and says, hey, I got a wedding. Can you shoot this wedding for me? Because if you don't do it, these people are not going to have a wedding photographer, because he had double booked a wedding and didn't realize that. And he had nobody else to call, so he called me. He had no idea if I could shoot well or not, but he kind of figured, well, if the guy works, for the DA's office, his job is shooting photography, he probably can do it. So I shot my second wedding. So little by little, I got pulled into professional photography outside of law enforcement. And that's how I ended up in professional photography. shooting weddings for this other guy for a while, and then I finally decided, he's making all the money, I'm doing all the work, I might as well have my own company. Started my own company, and I ended up in professional photography doing that on the side while working at the DA's office. So the whole point is this: sometimes you don't think you're going to be a pro, but sometimes you get dragged into it, right? And it's kind of maintained with me. I shot a number of weddings, moved back away from San Diego, moved back to where I am currently, stopped shooting weddings for a while, and then eventually just said, you know what, I could use some extra money. Let me go back and shoot weddings. So little by little, I kept going back into professional photography. In between that time, I started my own forensics company, and I used photography for that too. So obviously, I was never really out of photography. I was always in it, but in different capacities. But again, I didn't see myself as a professional photographer until I actually started booking weddings of my own and things like that. So my whole point is, sometimes you don't think you're going to get into it, but you just get dragged into it, right? And it has made a big difference. Besides that, I've been teaching photography. I've taught well over 12,000 students at this point, a lot of people. So is that a professional photographer? Yeah, I would tend to say so. If even if you're not shooting professionally, if you're even making your living from something related to photography, whether it's teaching or whatever, yeah, you're a professional photographer. So you might find yourself dragged into pro photography, even though you didn't intend to be a pro photographer. It's just something I wanted to bring up. Let me also say this too. If you have inklings to be a professional photographer, don't just take photography classes. Take some business classes. Take some classes on how to make a sale. These type of things will make a big difference for you if you end up as a professional photographer, because I'm going to tell you, a lot of your work has nothing to do with photography, but has everything to do with trying to get the job for the photography. All right. And those business type classes will come in handy for you. I mentioned this once in another video. It's very, very important. So take some lessons on how to make a sale, how to make a presentation, how to make yourself interesting so people could find you interesting enough to actually hire you. All right. So no matter how good your photography is, if you're not personable, if you're not a people person, yeah, you can't be a professional photographer, at least for portraits or weddings or something like that. Now, if you're doing other things like real estate photography, architectural photography, sports photography, yeah, okay, people skills might not be 100% important in those things, but I kind of still think it is, because again, you're marketing yourself. So do some other things besides photography related things, right? Hey, if you like these videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the little like button if you like this particular video, and hit the little bell icon, because that will give you indications when new videos come out. And let me say one more time, and I've said this for the last couple of videos, subscribing to a channel does not cost you anything. If you've never done it before on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you have a Gmail account or a YouTube account or any type of Google type of account, if you hit that, you can subscribe. It does not cost you anything. So why do people subscribe? Is because this gives the creator an idea of whether people really like what he's doing or they don't. And it also helps him later in case advertisers are interested in his channel. They look at things like how many people subscribe. If nobody subscribes, people must not like his videos, right? So it does help us in the long run if you hit that little subscribe button. And definitely watch the videos. Watch the old videos. Don't just watch the current videos. There's a lot of good information in the old videos. And those views do help us as well. So I appreciate it if you do that. Talk to you guys next time.